So, running around today, got my annual physical done, and I'm getting ready to take my daughter on a field trip. And it got me to thinking about kind of how busy things can be, how busy life can get for us all. And it made me think about something that happened last week. I was in the office. It was a kind of a stressful day. You've had those days where you're working and there's meetings going on. There's a lot that's happening, and some things had to get pushed to the next day. I was rushing. I was getting a lot of stuff done. It took an hour to get home, and then from there, I had to eat really quick, check in with the kids, and then my middle son had a track meet, so I had to get back in the car. 45-minute drive to get to his track meet. So I'm texting him as I'm on the way, letting him know, hey, he said I'm coming. I'm coming from work, and he just responded back, okay, Dad, I'm gonna ride back with the team, because he enjoys riding with the team on the bus. And I responded, this is on text message, but I'm like, well, you gotta ask your mom or your brother to pick you up, because I'm not doing that. I kind of unloaded on him about my day, about what was going on, and everything that was on my day. It was really uncalled for. I was irritated because of the day that I had, and it was a mistake that I unloaded on my son about my day, and he did not deserve that at all. So 50 minutes later, I get to the track meet. First thing I do after he runs his race, he comes over. First thing I do is I apologize, because you need to own up to what you have done, whether that's good or bad. And I told him, son, I'm sorry. And I just briefly explained to them a lot going on, and but letting them know that it had nothing to do with him. And I apologize, because it did not have anything to do with him, and that was on me. My wife had already sorted everything out about she was going to pick him up, but me, being in that moment of that frustration. And what I realized is sometimes burnout can kind of creep up on you. Sometimes it can sneak up on you without you even knowing it. My son was not the problem, but he was in the path of my pressure. And what I want you to know that are listening, even as I record this in the car, getting ready for a field trip, coming out of a physical, and our lives are busy. If you're listening to me, your life is probably busy. You have a lot going on. You probably wear a lot of hats. You have different roles, whether it's at work or work and church, and then at home. There's a lot happening. But what I want to share with you is, when I saw my son, I had to show up, not as the fit preacher, not as the reverend in church, not as whoever else, but just show up as Dad, and just be real with him. Show up as Dad, because I came there to support him. And so unpacking my day is not his responsibility. And so in a moment of frustration, not processing my day, I let that leak out. And if we're not careful, we can let our day and different parts of our life leak out to our family, and they don't deserve that from us. So a lot of times it's not the issue. The issue rather is not what happened, but it's what we do after that. Because a lot of times burnout is not going to knock on your door and say, hey, I'm burnout. And you need to take a rest. It will show up in relationships. It'll show up in conversations. It'll show up in those times with the people that you care about the most. So burnout, what happened to me right there is that it started leaking out in a moment of frustration, and to someone who had nothing to do with what was going on. So what you have to realize is that a lot of times burnout is not going to show up in the workplace first, because most of us, we're crushing it at work. We're getting this done. We're making things happen. So we're one person, and let's just be honest. A lot of times we're one person at work. A lot of times we're one person at church. Can we talk honestly here? But then when we get home, a lot of times we take that mask off, so to speak, and then we're someone else at home, because we let our guard down at home. And then now, but also we can run the risk of frustrations coming out when we're at home, all those difficulties of the day coming out, those problems that you didn't reconcile outside of the house manifest at home, and we take it out on the people that we care about the most. And so burnout will show up in your tone, it'll show up in your reactions or interactions. Sometimes they're short, sometimes a little coarse, and then your presence. Sometimes we can not be as present as we should be because burnout is affecting us and we're not unpacking the day sufficiently. So we're taking it out on those that love us. The Bible says this in Proverbs 4:23, that above all else we are to guard our hearts, because everything you do flows from it. Now, don't kill me. That's not King James Version for my church folk. That is NIV. But I said that because it just lets us know everything that we do flows from that, flows from the heart. So we have to protect that. It's very important. Now, I believe that what is in you is eventually going to flow out of you. So that pent up frustration from the day, the things that we're not dealing with, that we're not processing, that is going to come out and show itself eventually at some time. And so that's why I like often to talk about fitness. That's why I'm such a big advocate and proponent of fitness, because it's that release valve, so to speak. It helps you to be able to have a moment where you can, like, I like to pray as I work out, and it's just that time to just kind of detach yourself from the business. I mean, life is busy enough, and the craziness and all these things, that's going to happen regardless. But if you don't prepare yourself to be able to show up for the people that matter most, a lot of times we can run the risk of damaging those relationships, because the people on the outside, we're showing up all day at work, at church, at school, or whatever it is that you do, we're showing up there. But at home, we're letting our home get the rest of us and not the best of us. And that's something that we cannot do. So you have to be able to have those healthy outlets. For me, it's the gym. For you, might be reading a book, might be taking a walk, or whatever it is that you find yourself to be able to do to just have a healthy habit. Do those things, because what you have to understand as well is that you don't just need rest. You need to have release. You need to find that release valve that's going to be able to help you detach, have a moment of respite to relax and unpack that day that you had. A lot of stress and all the different things that we are going through, and oftentimes we just bring it home instead of having somewhere where we can release that. Now, I think that sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is to be able to get some fitness, go for a walk, make it a prayer walk, do something where you just meditate, unpack the day, think about things, just don't, let that frustration seep out into the home, because then it's going to be affecting your marriage, it's going to be affecting your children, it's going to be affecting the people that you love in a very negative way. So we don't want to do that, because it's really not needful. And I'll be the first to admit, when with my son, I dropped the ball in that moment, because the day was stressful. The day was busy. There was meetings on meetings, and there was timelines. There was deadlines that I had to meet, and so that was a lot of stress. I actually didn't even take lunch that day because I forgot to, because of how busy the day was. But your family is not supposed to be the recipient of your bad day. Yeah, I woke up at 4 a.m. that day. I was in the office all day, and then I went to but you know what? It's a privilege and an honor to be a father, to be a husband. And so we need to be able to show up for our family, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to steward the things that God has entrusted us with. The Bible says in 1 Timothy 3:5, for if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how actually take care of the church of God. And what that means to me is that we have to be careful about the things that matter the most, which is our family, before we show up as, the person in your church, whatever it is that you do in ministry. And it's wonderful. God bless you for it. But show up at your home. Show up in your marriage, for your husband, for your wife, for ladies that are listening, for your spouse, for your husband, and whoever it is that would hear this. These things are very critical, because and I did it, and yes, I'm the one that goes around speaking and talking about burnout, and whether it's corporate or in church. But at the same time, I didn't check myself, didn't regulate myself that day, and burnout was creeping up on me. So it can happen to anybody. We have to be able to know it, know the signs, because I believe this: your leadership is only going to be as strong as your personal life, your private life, because your family knows who you are without a microphone, or without a stage, or without all of those different things. They know you. So if you can't show up at home, whatever you're doing outside of home, it's going to be fake. And maybe that's a strong word. Couldn't think of anything else for it, but it's not going to be authentic. If you can't be you outside of the home the same way you show up in the home, then it's not authentic. And then if it's not authentic, then I don't believe that God is going to bless you the way that you are expecting it, if that's how you're doing it at home. Authority without authenticity is going to eventually make you collapse under the pressure, the weight of what you have going on, the weight of the expectation, and all of these different things. So my son did not need a perfect dad that day. He needed his dad. He needed his father. He needed me to show up for him in that moment. He needed me to just be there for him. His junior year, track season. And so, yes, it was a long day, but you know what? Going back to what I said earlier, it's a privilege and honor to be able to show up for your children, to be able to root them on from the stands, to be able to just be that part of life. Because he's going to remember one day. He's not going to remember about how many hours I worked. He's not going to remember about how many jobs I had. Well, maybe that'd be a joke someday, because a lot of times I do have a lot of different jobs. But what he's going to remember is those moments. We know what moments they're going to remember. They're going to remember the positive moments and the negative moments. So they're going to remember Dad showed up for the track meet. But you know what they'll also remember? If you don't have enough positive moments, it's going to be clearly evident to them. Remember, Dad was aggravated. Dad was frustrated. Dad snapped at me. Dad did. So you got to make sure, and nobody is perfect, and I get that, but we have to understand that we have to keep showing up in the right way. We have to keep showing up in the ways that matter for our family. Check yourself. If you're feeling like, hey, I might be burned out right now. Hey, I might have too much on my plate right now. Hey, I might have too much going on right now. You need to evaluate yourself and see, is that where I am? Is that really what's happening? And what can I do to get better? Because I believe this, you're not going to lose respect from your family by apologizing. So for the men that are listening, the macho stuff of days gone by, let's stop that. I'm quick to apologize, because you have to show that humility in the home. If you want to lead somewhere outside the home, you have to display leadership in your home. So strong men and strong women, you have to realize this, because I understand you're not just carrying weight. You're carrying a lot of responsibility, and you have to know what to put down, what's not meant for you to carry. So if you're listening to this and experiencing moments like this and times like this, know that you're not alone. Burnout is a real thing, and not to put labels on things, but it is something that it's not just, I'm just having a bad day, or I'm just not myself. No, you have to really unpack what's going on. What am I feeling? What am I going through? Pray about it, work on it, talk to somebody about it, because you can't ignore it. You have to adjust. You have to reset, and realign. So if you're leading people at work, at home, at church, whatever it is, whether it's ministry or whether it's a marketplace, understand that this is something that we have to get right. It's something that we really have to work on, because we have to show up for those that matter the most. Because before you can show up outside of your house, you have to have the respect and love from the people that are inside your house. So you have to take care of what's entrusted to you. Critically important that we do that, including yourself. So I'm Frederick Parrott, the Fit Preacher. I'll see you next time.